Okay, so let's try that again and see how we go. So take 2, and I'll just bear with everybody just to get back into the stream. So we are going to be doing frames and shakers for those of you that missed the failed first part. And hi Carol, you're back in. So we're just waiting for a few more people and we should be good to go. Just let me know that you're back in so that I can see that everybody's live and good to go. So hi Deb. And I think I'm going to leave it there. Okay, so, oh, hello Tanya. Okay, so let me know if you managed to get a screenshot or not. If not, I can hold that there for a bit longer. There you go, so you can see it a little bit better. There we go. And then what we're on about with 1 and 2 is our diagram just here. So we have an inner cut line, which is number 2, an outer cut line, which is number 1, and then in between it could be that we've done some drawing, it could be that we've done some cutting, it could be paper piercing, so that we've got some decorative detail between the two, and that is what our file is going to look like. Okay, I think we might have to speak to good old internet service provider. They're going to love us because we had an engineer out yesterday for Grandad as well, so they're going to be like, oh no, not you again. So, layer order from front to back, and this all depends on how complicated you want to make it. So let's try and get that under the chat so you can screenshot it. So we have the easy first option, which is surface shaker. So that means it's literally going to stick straight onto a plain front card blank with no aperture in that card blank. Nice and simple. And if you want to, you can cut a D in a different colour so that you've got a background to your shaker. It's going to be nice and easy. Then we have 2 options which are going to go through the card so that the actual shaker actually goes through the back of the front of your card. So we have the through shaker, which is basically where you're going to have that shaker coming forward from the front of your card as well as going back. So you've got 2 decorative frames, one of which you're going to want to flip. And then you've got 2 sets of acetate, 2 sets of padding, and the aperture that you're going to cut from your card blank in the middle. You've got the sunken shaker, where we're going to put a frame onto our acetate. That acetate is then going to go over the top of the aperture in your card blank. Behind that you're going to put the padding for your shaker, then more acetate, and finish off with a decorative frame that again is flipped. So where you see this little symbol here, that's where you want to flip it. And finally we have the aperture shaker. So this is where you are going to just cut your aperture from your card blank, then put your acetate, then your padding, then your acetate, or you can just cut that last one from card so that you've got a background to your shaker. So there you go. So hopefully you've got a bit of a screenshot of that too. Okay, so I'm going to move to the machine. So first of all, I need to wake it up. It's gone to sleep on me. And over we go. Oh dear. So given that the internet is going to be playing up, I am going to take this nice and slowly, so hence I've already said that this is going to be done in multiple parts. I was hoping to get it all done today, but I am being realistic in that it's probably not going to happen. Linda, it is not necessarily your internet, it's that ours is really playing up. So I'm dropping frames faster than, you know, I can ladder a pair of tights, and that's saying something. So I'm going to go into pattern, and I'm going to start off nice and simple. So on my sketch I did it with circles, and basically if you're using nested dies, so you don't have to use your cutter for this, you can use your basic shape dies to give you a guide as to where we're going to start from. So let's go down to a circle, and you're going to set it to the size that you want to fill the inside of your shaker. So this is going to be the aperture through which you're going to see your shakers. Now this shape here could be one of the designs that is in your design section of your ScanNCut. So you don't have to just do basic shapes. But I'm starting off with this because I'm going to show you how we can actually build a decorative frame. So just to make this nice and round, I'm going to take it up to 4 inches and make a nice big shaker file. Okay, and we're going to just have one to start with, and we're going to go set, and that's going to pop it onto the mat. Now I'm just going to sort out my cut area, so when you see this grey area here, it's just my cut area is a bit. Quickest way, just change between the two. Okay, okay, there you go, back to normal. So with our aperture, I'm going to move it roughly towards the centre of our mat because I want to do an offset. I'm going to go to Edit, Object Edit, Offset, and then the offset amount, I'm going to take it up so we get quite a significant frame. So if we go up an inch, that's going to take our 4x4 circle up to a 6x6 circle. If you go down to half an inch, that's going to give you a 5x5. So let's go to a half inch. Okay, so we're going to go okay at this point, and we're going to have 2 circles. Now at this point it can be really tempting to go, okay, we either need to subtract, we can't do that on your machine anyway, or we need to group. Now if at any point you group this and you save it, it's going to save grouped, so that's just an important thing to remember. And what we really need when we're doing a shaker card is actually keeping those 2 elements separate. So while I might group things to move them, remember to ungroup them as well. So I'm going to go OK, select all, OK. Object Edit, and we're going to group so that we can move it. And we're going to move up to this top corner here. Now, if you want to save your mat because you've been doing lots of cutting up here, move it down here. That's absolutely fine too. Okay, so don't think, oh, I've got to always have it up in that corner. Move it around the mat and actually share that kind of adhesive that you have. So once you're happy with where it's placed, we're going to ungroup it so that we don't accidentally go wrong. I'm going to go OK, OK, and add. So at this point we can decide if we want to add some drawing, if we want to add a cut element, if we want to do it so it's paper piercing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my designs, and I'm first of all going to choose something nice and simple. What is wrong with me today? So I'm going to go for a 5-petal flower. And at the moment that's going to be way too big, but there's no point trying to size it while you're working. blind, so to speak. So I'm going to move that flower. I'm going to go to Edit, Object Edit, Resize, and I'm going to resize that down. Whee. Okay, and it's tiny, but that's okay. Don't panic just yet. So move that down that way. Okay. Then I can go Object Edit, Number, and we're going to need quite a few. Let's say 15. Better to have too many than not enough. So what we're going to do is we're going to want to zoom into this area here so that we can move these around. So all our flowers are on top of our circle, so it's important that we do it that way round so that we can get to those flowers nice and easy. I'm going to go OK, and then go to our moving screen. I'm going to go to our zoom. I'm going to scroll down. Now if your shapes are even smaller than what I've got mine, you can zoom in again to 400% and do it that way. Or if you find that your flowers are being annoying, then you might find that zooming in will help you. So I'm going to start off by just positioning these around. Am I going to get this perfect first time? No, I'm not. Now if you accidentally click that and move it, go OK, and we can undo. Oop. So click off it, and then we can click back on a flower and zoom back in. So I'm using a pencil eraser because I find that helps me get a better accuracy on my screen. It might be that we use all of these, it might be that we use a few less than what we've created. That's going to go up there, that's going to go up there. Is there a quicker way of doing this? Not really. Is there an accurate way of doing this on the machine? Again, not really. But we can use shapes to fill in the gaps that are going to help us even that out a little bit. So, given that we had a number of 15 and we've used all of those, we know that whatever spacer we need, we are going to need 15 of those as well. So I'm going to go OK, and OK again, and OK again. I'm going to go to Add, Pattern, Pattern, and we can go back into our shapes, back into our nature. We can scroll down. We could choose a leaf if you wanted to use that as a spacer. In terms of actually making it so that you're drawing a leaf each time, or if you don't want to have that element there, we can just go into our basic shapes and we can just set up a circle as a spacer. And I'm going to reduce that down just a little bit to make it a little bit more easier to handle. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into Edit, resize that so that we get it more or less the same size as our space. So this one here is a bit close, this one over here is a bit far apart. So you kind of want to go for something that's between the two. I'm going to go OK. And just because at the moment I don't want to risk moving this too much, I'm going to go into select. I'm going to tap off so that nothing is selected. I'm going to go to the window, resize that down, go OK. And just for now, we're going to group. Because then we can concentrate on getting our spaces where we need to get the spaces, and then we can move, kind of lock those into a group. Okay. So let's go OK. I'm going to go back to my circle. Position it very roughly for our first one there. Now, what you can do here is, if you want to, you can just do it one at a time. So you go into number, change the number to 2, which is going to give you another copy, and you move that one round. It all depends on how confident you are. And what I'm going to do is, let's go for 10. And you're going to see that they're going to pop up and they're going to come all the way down here. Now what I need to do is just drag those over here. So we can see there's our first spacer, and we're going to put our next spacer there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to nudge that one. So if we're going to move, we can nudge. Which then means that this one can move up, and we can go, okay, that flower just there is going to have to move this way a little bit. Now I'm going to use my arrow tools to get to the one that I need to get to. And there we go. So I can nudge that one. Now if we look at the gaps either side of our line, that's going to give us an idea whether why you put the flowers where they are, please. So basically what we're creating is a decorative frame. So we're building up design. And we're going to use our spacer images to kind of space those out. Now it may be that by the time that we've done this, we end up going, well actually, we don't need as many flowers. And I'm just trying to make sure that with all our circles, the gaps are even either side, or as much as they can be. It's a bit difficult when the screen isn't as high resolution as what you would do in Canvas. So you can move those around there, around there. So as we're doing this, we can kind of start to go, actually, do we need as many flowers? And to my mind, it's going to look like those are going to kind of shove up that way a little bit. Because that needs to come down to kind of match this spacing around here. Okay. I'm going to go OK. Now, what I want to do is I want to select everything, then unselect that group. I'm going to go into Object Edit, and I'm going to group those circles so that I have a guide then. yes, you can design in Canvas. The reason I'm showing you on Machine to Date is for those that don't like to use a computer and don't like to use Canvas. Canvas is a lot easier to do this with, but then you've got the thing of importing a design in to play with. So it's horses for courses, and you can ping between the two if you want. So decorative border, you can ping that across to Canvas, do what you need to do in there, and then send it back. So part 1 is going to focus on using the machine itself. Part 2 is going to be how you can do it in Canvas or other design software. So that we can go, ooh, that's really cool. So, with that as a guide, I'm going to go OK. And I'm going to cycle through so that I get to my other group. And now we're going to go into Object Edit and we're going to Ungroup. So now we can see that there's a red square around every little flower, as well as our 2 circles. I'm going to tap off it, and it's going to go back to our flowers underneath, and that's absolutely fine. Let's go to our nudge, and now we can start to use our guides to go, actually, those need to move. That one there needs to move. So remember how I said that it might be that we turn around and go, well, actually, we've got more flowers than we actually need. This is when we're going to start seeing it, because you're going to see that just there we have a double flower. So I'm going to go OK. Use my arrow key to get to that next flower. There we go, that one, and we can delete it. Now I want to get to that one just there. There we go. Can go back into move. I'm going to nudge that down and across. Okay, so I've got those all right. That one's okay. That one down there needs to move across. Is this going to be perfectly aligned? No. But it's as close as the machine can get it. So for all those people that are like, you can use the ScanNCut with a computer, this is going to be your option for how you're going to do this. So I've got half my flowers sorted. So in theory, all we have to do is take those flowers and duplicate them, and I've got the spacing for the top section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, those are all correct, all the way around there. These ones not so much. So if I go into delete those, we're just going to need half. So probably just only going to need those anyway. So these ones here. So we can delete these ones at the top. Come on, above the top. There you go. Delete that one. And delete that one. And I just want to get hold of that one there and delete that one. Okay. So now that we've done those, we can get rid of the circles. So here's how to tell what you're actually clicking on. So when you have a red box there, and you can see that group is greyed out, that means you just have a single item. And if you can't get to it any other way, use your arrow. D, 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 D. Now if we go into Object Edit, you can see that the group button is highlighted, so we know that that is all of our group circles. So we can just delete those out of our way, like so. And we can see we've got the start of our frame around here, and you can decide how much of that you need to duplicate. So again, to make life easier, let's select both of our circles, we're going to group them. So now we've just got our flowers individually as well. I'm going to go OK. Now, what we want to do next is we want to select all of our flowers, and we're going to group it so that we can actually rotate those around. So go into multi-select, window select, bring it down so you're underneath that frame, go OK, and you've got just your flowers selected. And go OK. Object, group. So far so good. Now bear in mind, when we do this next bit, it's going to rotate those flowers around, even though at the moment they're all upright. Don't worry about that at this moment in time. So we're going to go to number and 2 because we want an extra one. We're going to take that one and let's rotate it twice, and we can position that. Again, you're not going to necessarily position it correctly first time, so we can just go nudge that across, and you can see from these two actually we're not that far out. Not bad at all. So I'm going to go OK, object edit, ungroup, and I'm going to take out the two that are overlapping. OK. So now I'm going to go into the window select, take it up so it goes past those two circles and that bottom flower group. Go OK. So we've got those selected. We can go OK and we can group those. Okay. So now we should have two groups of flowers that we can select, and we've got our group with our apertures. So I'm just going to go into that, I'm just going to ungroup it, and we can go OK. Now, we now have the centre circle, the outside circle, and the decoration in the middle, and that is what we're looking for. So whatever you want to do in terms of that decoration in the middle is kind of free reign really. So if you want to do it with paper piercing, you can do that. If you want to draw it, you can do that. The only thing obviously is a bit more tricky to do it. As you're doing a circle, would distribute still work? If so, would this be an easy way of doing it? Distribute only works so much as straight line or grid, basically, because it just works on literally on the space in between elements. So if you have, let's say, let's use a clock as an example, because you'll have that in front of you that you can kind of reference. And you've got, let's go overhead. So you've got your, let's go over here and zoom in a bit there. There we go. So you've got your circle like this, very roughly, and you've got your 12 o'clock here, your 3 o'clock here, and it's 6. Okay, you've got your 1 and your 2, and by eye you can go, right, okay, that's an equal amount of angle. But if we draw our lines across, what you're going to see is, particularly if you do this on an actual clock, is this top line here is going to be closer than this one here, and this one here is going to be further apart again. So whereas with distribute, what it would do is actually kind of make the, so those three are equal, so it doesn't quite get it in the right place for a circle. But when you come to do things like fit to path, on the other hand, or you can do it in silhouette as well, in that you can align a shape to a path and it will actually work out your spacing for you. So this is kind of, everybody thinks that because you can use the ScanNCut without a computer, it's simpler to use it without a computer, but actually the computer can do an awful lot of hard work for you. So what is, a couple of clicks on the computer is a lot more involved on the ScanNCut. That's not to say that you can't do it on the ScanNCut, because you just watch me do it. But you're going to get a much better and easier method by doing it on the computer. So that's why when people say to me, oh, you don't need a computer. No, you don't need a computer, but they can make it an awful lot easier for you. Why make your life difficult when you can either do that, and that is why I start with the ScanNCut, because it's like, yeah, you can use it without the computer. But then when you see how much easier it is to do it on canvas, even beyond, without going to any other software, if you just had to do it in canvas, it would still be easy to do it in canvas. Now, the trick with canvas in terms of being able to use the fit to path is that you are going to want to work with some type of dingbat font. Could you do it on a tablet? So fit to path, off the top of my head, I think only works on the desktop version of Canvas. You can tell how often I use the online one. I only really use it if I really have to. But if you have Affinity on a tablet, yes, you can do it in Affinity, and it'd be just as easy as doing it in the desktop version of Canvas. And you can have more control to a certain extent. Even better is if you use Illustrator on your tablet. Yes, it costs you money. Again, in terms of how you can interact with text. So for people who are on a budget, Affinity is the way to go when you're working on a tablet, and you can export to SVG, and if you have Dropbox on your tablet, you can use that to send your files between your iPad and your computer, so that you can kind of go across both platforms if you want to. You can even get little USB sticks now that you can use both in your iPad and then straight into your machine, because they've got both ends available. Or you can use a Wi-Fi one. Now, Wi-Fi one's a bit more hit and miss as to which ones work, so do be prepared to have a bit of an outlay there, trying to find the right one that works how you want it to. But yeah, so going back to distribute, if you were doing a square frame, if you're doing rectangular frame, then distribute is going to be the way to go. It's because you're doing that round one. So, what you then want to do, once you've got everything set up on your machine, so let's go back to ScanNCut. We're going to go OK, and we're going to save it. And you can save that to USB, you can save it to your machine, or you can ping it back to Canvas if you want to tweak it. So I can save it to USB, and it's going to say includes a group pattern on the mat, can't ungroup it once you save it. Okay, because we know the only thing that is grouped is that decorative section in the middle that we are going to want to keep in that format. So we're going to go OK. It's going to think about it, and there you go. Now, if you get that far and you think, okay, I've had enough, I cannot get it how I want it, and I want to go to Canvas, if we go to save, we can go and press the Wi-Fi button. Again, it's going to say we've got a group pattern on the mat, you can't ungroup it. So we can go OK, but even though it's grouped and it says it can't ungroup it, you can divide it and do it that way. Your other option is that you go into the group, ungroup it, and then send it if you can't get on with dividing it. So I hope that's given you a few ideas. So I've shown you a simple circle, but we can actually step it up a bit from here. So rather than worrying about decoration on the frame itself, what we can actually do is actually start to use a decorative frame in terms of the shape. So with that saved, we're going to go and reset, and we're going to go and choose a pattern. So let's go into any of our shapes, and let's go into our little cute characters. Now anything that is one colour is going to be nice and easy for you to do this with. Anything that is two colours is going to be a little bit more tricky. 3, I would avoid it wherever possible. So let's start with, let's do a paw, because it's a good one to do. So we've got our paw shape, and I'm going to keep it quite big to start with. We can go OK. Now you can see that it's got all these shapes as little individual shapes, which is actually for our benefit if we want it. But I'm just going to go for this one. Just go OK. I want all the shapes on there, and it's going to automatically decide to put it as a group. So I'm going to add that to my mat. There's my group. I can move it around. It's just one object, even though we know it is 5 individual ones. Now if we're going to edit an object edit, we can use our offset. Now we want to take that offset bigger. So we want to go so big that the frame shapes can start to overlap, but we don't want it too big as that it's actually encroaching back into our aperture shape. Absolutely hammering it down now. Did we all enjoy the thunderstorm last night? Or the other night? Well, we had one last night and the night before. Wasn't good. Which is probably why my internet is really playing up today, because our telephone lines here are really old and literally rusty. When the engineers come, they hate us because they literally crumble in their hands. It's not good. It really needs somebody to come along and actually sort out the gigabit so that we can actually have that installed. I really wish they'd hurry up and do it. So needless to say, we are very susceptible to the weather. If there's any glitches in the power, we lose the TV as well, because the aerial goes. It's all fun. So with our offset done, I'm going to go OK. OK, so at the moment what we have selected is the inside shape. If we go and press our arrow key, that's going to go to our outside shape. Go to Object Edit, and at the moment you can see that our weld is greyed out because it's only got one object selected, even though it's a group. So what we need to do with this outside line is ungroup it, and then we're going to weld it, and like so. So you should see something that looks like that. So let's see if I can zoom in a bit closer for you, just so you can see. So you should see an outside line that is joined up, an inside line that is then your aperture, and then if you've got something like this where you've got a bit of detail, you might get another line inside, and that's going to be the equivalent of the outside of your frame, just to get a little bit more confusing. So yes, that's correct. So at this point we can go OK, because at that point we're locking it in and we're going, that's what we want. So if you think back to when we did our original diagram, so our top one here that you did the screenshot of, what we actually have is the outside line that goes all the way out around the outside the port is 1. Then the line that goes around the pad of the paw and the pad of the toes is 2. Then you've got another line inside that is the equivalent of going back to 1. Okay? Because basically that centre line is what we want to be the outside of our frame. So if you consider when we did our layers where we've got 1 and 2, 1 through 2, what we're actually going to want to do with our decorative frame in this case is go 1 to 2 to 1 again, because we've got that centre little section that knocks out. And that's something to bear in mind as you build up your layers. But that outside line and that frame inmost line at the moment is grouped because of the weld. Now, if you need to have those so that they're separate at any point, then you will need to use divide in canvas. You can't do it on computer. But for the method that I've shown you in terms of the layers, you should be absolutely fine to do that on the machine. So I can go OK, OK, and then we're going to go back to save, and we can save it to USB. And again, it's going to say back being grouped. That's fine. That's where we've got our toe pads and our little paw pad. That is where our aperture would be, which is correct to be grouped. So we can go, OK. And off we go. So let's go back home. And let's pick something else. So let's go for, let's go back to our flowers and let's go for this one, something a bit different that we haven't used in a while. So I'm going to go OK, OK, and set. So here's our one colour design. We can go into edit, object edit, and we can go down offset the same way. Okay, so I'm going to go OK, apply that, and we can see that actually these bits inside are not going to be what we need at all, but that's okay. So with this selected at the moment, we've got our apertures in the middle for our flower. So what we need to do is actually weld those back out. So if I go OK, I'm going to go back to my offset and I'm going to get rid of that for a minute. So we can concentrate on removing these. Nice easy way to do it. I'm going to go to add, pattern, into our basic shapes. And let's go for a circle. So occasionally I'll do it with an oval if I think it needs it. I'm going to line it up roughly over the middle. Object edit and resize, because it's going to resize from that middle point, which is why we align it over the top. And I want to bring it down so it is literally just big enough to cover those centre bits. Now it might be that we cut out a little bit detail on these other bits. That's fine. I'm not too bothered about that. I want to go to multi-select, select everything, OK. Object edit, weld. Yep, that's fine. Then we can go back and do our offset and we've got our frame good to go. So typically in terms of your size of your frame, you are going to want it to be about 1/4 of an inch minimum, because you are going to be wanting to cut it out to different materials. So those materials which you will need to have to hand for part 3 are going to be some adhesive foam, or foam that you can apply a double-sided sheet adhesive or roll adhesive to, or you could use something like thicker card or mount board if you want to stay green and friendly. You are going to need some acetate for the see-through element of your shaker, or you can use vellum, or you could use cellophane. Now, cellophane is biodegradable, so it's good for shaker cards that are not going to be kept as keepsakes. So if you know somebody doesn't keep their cards but they like a bit of fun, then you can use cellophane in the front, and it's a bit more environmentally friendly. Your decorative frame, you're going to need some nice card. So that could be that you want to do some mirror card with it. It could be that you've got some nice textured or metallic card. That sort of thing is where you would use your decorative frame. And then you're going to want a card base to stick it all onto. And possibly some stamping card for that background section if you want to put a little image inside your shaker card. So you can always put little characters at the back and just have like glitter if you want to do like a Christmassy one. If you want to get a bit more involved and do things like a hidden message, for instance, you might do a super duper filled shaker card that you kind of have to move the elements around to be able to see the message behind. Okay. So, with that, tomorrow I'm going to be doing part 2, which is going to be all display work, and hopefully we can sort out the IT glitches so that we can actually have a bit of a better stream tomorrow, because it's still really upset with me and I have like 25 red errors, which is not good. Not good. So it's not a happy bunny. So I will come back tomorrow and hopefully we'll have at least fixed it or have somebody on the way to sort it. So take care for now, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.